Sometimes it's too outdated, they don't.
Today we're going to hear from Melissa Losaw and her mother,
Joy Barber.
And they're from Lincklaen. They're going to talk about the history of Lincklaen. And just so you know, there are refreshments in the back. If you're interested, there's coffee and brownies and bottled water. And if you haven't signed the book at the front, please do so before you leave. There's also a survey on the table if you'd like to fill that out. It will help us for future programs. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melissa Losaw. I've never done this before, so bear with me, please. Lincklaen is a small community, and it always has been, but it's
Big voice.
But it started out as different settlements. There was Cortland settlement in a portion of Lincklaen, and it was originally called Cortland settlement. And there was another portion that was Burdick settlement that was settled by George Burdick. I'm not as up on Lincklaen as my mom is. I haven't been doing this as long as she had been doing it. I meant to bring a book that I forgot on the firsts of Lincklaen. And I'm trying to figure out where to go to now because I forgot, I grabbed the wrong book. But it was all originally owned by John Lincklaen.
John Lincklaen.
And it was it was owned from Cazenovia to German.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where to go to from here. I really don't.
What year would that have been?
Does it go our way?
When did Lincklaen become a town?
Oh, well, when John Lincklaen was there.
He started in 1768,
That's when I first came there.
and it was in Holland.
The Holland Land Company.
Yeah, Holland Land Company. And there were 4 main families in Lincklaen, and that would have been the Cortlands, who were Alicia and Jesse, Abel Fairchild, and I cannot pronounce his first name, Bacchus, Job's Bacchus, and Aaron Pete. They were the main people who lived and started Lincklaen. And it was Dutch investors that formed the Holland Company. I'm gonna have to sit here. My legs aren't very good. So I have to sit. I'm kind of wobbly right now. And John Lincklaen bought the gore from the Holland Company in the late 1790s. And March 15th of 98, Chenango County became the 26th county in New York. I don't know if anybody would like to ask me any questions. I know we have a list of Civil War soldiers that we have buried in our cemeteries in Lincklaen, which I put flags on every year for them. I'm really sorry I'm not more prepared. I've never done this before, so.
How many cemeteries are there in Lincklaen?
There's 3, right? 4.
Woodlawn, Lincoln Center, Rhode Island, Red Schoolhouse, and Lane. 5.
How many Civil War soldiers did you have?
How many what?
When you're putting flags on the graves, how many Civil War soldiers are there?
42. Well, they're not all civil, but
Yeah.
most of them are, but they're not all civil. They're all for all the wars. We do 42 flags, just on Woodlawn Cemetery. Somebody else does the other 2 cemeteries. Woodlawn's our main cemetery now. Yes.
I'm always most interested in what gets people involved in a particular historic or history exploration. And so what's behind your involvement?
I started helping my mom with her side of the family when I was 16, and I've been working on whatever I can on both sides of my family and my husband's and my son's girlfriend.
So you have kind of deep exploration in family
Yes.
culture
Yes.
within that area.
Yes.
Anything particularly interesting about that? You know, you found a lot of patterns of.
Just my family.
Yes, as my father, this is my father, his family is related. I have found 3 or 4 different connections into the Burdick family, just alone. And I found a book of Burdicks in the Chenango, well, it's not the Chenango, Guernsey
The Guernsey
Library in Norwich, and we were able to get copies of that. So I have a copy of the Burdick book, which is 3, just making these kind of copies is 3 notebooks this thick.
So I'm originally Michigander, so is that mostly dairy in that area? or-
Yes, yes. All in that area.
Do you have any Revolutionary soldiers and any cemeteries down there?
Yes, we do. And especially the Woodlawn and Rhode Island.
Yes.
They're the main 2 that have the Revolutionary.
I didn't think there was any here.
Yeah.
I think it was.
When you talk about the Rhode Island Cemetery, I thought that was on the road from Otsulik to DeRuyter.
It is,
It
but
is.
it's still,
It's still a town.
Still
It's
in
in
Lincklaen.
town of Lincklaen,
I
yeah.
see.
in fact, I got a call from the University of Rhode Island wondering why it was called that.
And why is it?
I think it is because there were several families that came from Rhode Island.
Yes.
Yes.
Burdicks.
Yes,
Yes, mine did.
Yeah.
Married into the Crandall family.
Yes.
Did you find were Burdick married into the Phelps family?
I want to say yes, because I think there are Phelps in with the Burdicks.
You would remember that better than I.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's Phelps in with the Burdicks.
If you have any Burdick connection at all, though, that book is wonderful to,
Yes.
make further connections back in. That lady did a wonderful job on that.
Yeah,
That
she did.
had to have taken her years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And back in that time period, she wrote to all of those relatives to put that
No
together.
email.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
no
there were
email.
emails back then.
What is the time period for the Burdick book?
Oh, I don't remember that. Because it goes way back.
I want to say 1620, but I don't know if it goes further than that.
Up
Yeah.
to like 1920s,
30s,
30s.
20s or 30s is as far as it comes forward.
Right.
I haven't looked at the book in a while. Yes?
There's a small Burdick cemetery on the East Rider Reservoir Road.
Yes,
Yes.
there is.
Okay. Those 2 Burdicks there, Phineas and Penelope, are the parents of the ones who settled in Lincklaen.
And DeRuyter Thompson's brother to George, and he's the one who settled around the lake, and George came over to Lincklaen. And there's several more, and 3 of the brothers married 3 Coon sisters.
My particular interest wasn't verdict, but their gravestones. Those two gravestones are carved by a man I call Comma Man. We don't have a name for him.
Yes,
But
I
that-
know Comma Man.
Yeah, okay.
Uh-huh.
Those two turned up in that verdict cemetery. There's another one there too.
Isn't that fascinating where you can find, you just know when you see the stone, Comma Man had to have done the stone.
Right.
I was going to do a program in June for our McGraw Historical Society.
Yeah.
Can you explain?
Why?
You put commas in
Yes,
strange places?
He did. It's an unusual, he was a carver who placed punctuation, usually commas, but occasionally colons, as word separators inside the inscription. He didn't use them as punctuation, like a regular comma to stop before another thought. They're placed inside between the words as word separators, and it's a very unusual form. Word separators were used in the 1700s in eastern Massachusetts, and then there's a few in the New Haven, Connecticut area. I haven't made the connection as to who the carver is that is the Comma Man. Starts up in Georgetown, and you can follow him all the way down Route 26 to Whitney Point. He's in almost all of the cemeteries along 26 from Georgetown.
Didn't we find he came from Columbus?
No, I'm not positive on that.
Well, one of them came from that area.
Yeah. Well, I went to Historical Society at the Guernsey Library, and there was a lady who was, very into cemetery stones, and that's what I learned about the Comma Man.
That's in Norwich, the Guernsey
Yes.
Library in Norwich.
But the thing that she wanted to find out the most was the Coffin Man.
Oh, bless.
And he would leave a signature right at the very bottom. I mean, most of the time you'd have to dig away dirt to find the signature on that stone that he was the one that did his stones. And she was trying to trace him back to where he originated from.
Well, we know his name is Jonas Stewart, and he came from Claremont, New Hampshire.
Oh, so someone has finally found, because that was years ago I went to that. Are you the one that did that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to meet you again.
Nice to meet you.
But I
remember,
was
thank you.
fascinated with that. Yes.
Well, they're all about the same time period, so they knew each other. And there's, but recently came across the Comma Man stones just north of DeRuyter, so we're wondering if maybe he was from the DeRuyter area. He did the circle up and around DeRuyter, up to Route 80, over 80, down Keeney Settlement into Kyler, so there's a circle of stones there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then and like I said, down Route 26. He didn't do many stones. He's only probably there from 1825 until 1829 or 30. So chances of finding out who he is probably up in the air, but I like to collect them, and if you know where there are others, please let me know through the Historical Society here.
Well, my husband and I will be going to a cemetery that's back in the woods up near Sherburne for a relative of mine. So if I find anything interesting, I mean, it's older stones and...
Well, I noticed that that's why I was interested in the connection to Lincklaen.
Yes.
And the verdicts over there, whether or not, I'm always wondering whether someone in the family carved a stone, but it's just a hypothesis.
Yes, which some of them did back in that time period. They would carve their own. Yeah.
The churches, you sure? The churches that are standing right now in Lincklaen that are just below Randall Hill, which churches are those, and are they your oldest churches?
Only the one church. Well, the town hall used to be a
That's
the
right,
Methodist
town hall
church.
used to be a church.
Yeah. That was the oldest, wasn't it?
Well, I'm not certain because Lincklaen Center may
Lincklaen Center
have
had
the
the
oldest.
oldest ones, yes. which would have been
Lincklaen
the
Center
Burdick-
had the
Which would
oldest
have been the Burdick Center.
Which that was settled by the Burdicks.
And that's the Seventh-day Baptist Church.
Right.
It was that one is the Seventh-day Baptist?
Yes.
That's great.
And now
I believe
there's
it's still
Adventist there.
Yes,
There's a little
it still
story
is.
between that too.
And there's still,
When
it's
the
still the Seventh-day
Adventists
Baptist.
wanted
of
to
Lincoln.
separate from the Baptists,
Uh-huh.
they met them at the door with shotguns to get out, told them to get out of church.
It's real Christian. My interest in Lincklaen is, I'm a Randall.
Wonderful.
And Zebulon Cheeseboro Randall is like my 6 generations up from me, and he had 13 children.
Mhm.
And I know my family from there on down extremely well. And I have the newspaper articles from the 1800s where he had something to do with starting one of the churches with Ketchums, and I'm not sure if the Burdicks are in there. I've read about the Burdicks. But nonetheless, that's why I was curious about the churches that are right along the route.
Well, I believe okay, if you're coming into Lincklaen from DeRuyter Way,
Yes.
the church on your left would be older than the one on the right. Because I know that church, it was well, the old historian was Marion Poole. She was awesome. But in her writings, she said that they had to redo, they had to raise the church and redo the foundation, and they cut off part of it and then set it back down.
Are her writings available somewhere?
Bring that book with you? Is that the one you forgot?
That's the main one I forgot,
Yeah.
yes.
We don't have that one.
That has all the firsts of Lincoln,
Yeah.
and I don't
That's
remember
all,
them.
I mean, all of it is all handwritten. She would use scrap paper, poster. Yes, darling.
She did that, and it's in the DeRuyter Library. There was copies of it in the DeRuyter Library. And,
Of her
yeah,
writings?
Yeah, what she did on Lincoln.
Oh.
And then Cindy Angel is doing them again and going to publish them, I think.
Oh, that would be
She's
wonderful.
working on it.
One of the Randalls married an angel.
Right, yeah, that's how I'm related to you somehow back in the day.
What was the commerce in the Lincklaen area? What brought your families to Lincklaen for work?
The mills, farming. I go on both sides, Burt's and Barber both. And they went there for farming, pretty much.
So agriculture.
Pretty much. And there was a couple factories there. In
Well,
fact, we have some of
The
the
pond store.
clothespins. That,
Oh, yeah.
they had a clothespin factory. They had an ice cream factory.
Picture of that right here. We have a picture of that right here, the Burdick Mills, and where they did the clothespins.
And where the pond store was built carriages. Years ago.
Well, I know there was the cheese factory,
Yeah.
right, at
Yes,
Lincklaen
there's-
Center. And that's what brought my grandfather, Floyd Forter, there to be a cheesemaker.
The Forders,
The Forter, that's my grandfather.
the Burts.
Well, Forter is married.
Married into the Burts.
Yes,
The girl.
yes. And my great-grandmother was a Burdick who married a Baldwin, and then she married a Forter. And
Yeah.
Baldwin's married Randall's too.
yes,
Okay.
they all,
Just saying.
These are all pretty much in that Burdick book as well.
yeah. Yeah. I looked at the verdict book because my grandmother had one, and my grandfather always said, "Don't look too far in that book. You'll find a horse." But my sisters and I used to play in the church, which was next door to my grandmother's house, because it was neglected for quite a few years. No one met in it. Right.
Yeah.
They just started back here.
Yeah.
A year or two
Just a
ago.
couple of years ago.
Well, while my grandmother was alive, she led a refurbishing of the church, and that's when the Seventh-day Baptist came down from, what was his name? Flatt? Reverend Flatt, I think his name was, came from DeRuyter, and they held services for several years.
Oh,
And
no.
then they,
One that married us.
Reverend Swing?
Swing.
Swing,
Yeah.
yeah, he was one. Yeah.
Yes.
And so they did get the church revived and,
Yes. But now they only have church during the summer.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just found a
Yeah.
thing in the paper that he just recently passed away.
Oh, Reverend Porter.
Porter, okay,
Yes.
wrong one. I thought it was Reverend Porter.
He had a church in Lincklaen Center, it was his Sunday Adventist.
So, but my grandfather, after the cheese factory, the cheese, I guess you call it factory, there at Lincklaen Center, after that closed, he went to work for Reed's, which became Borden's in Cincinnatus.
Oh, yes.
And he
yes.
worked there for many years. So.
Well, I know one thing that I always wanted to find out more about, which I couldn't. Right on the border of Lincklaen and Pitcher, there was a rope factory. Mm-hmm. And when you think about a rope factory, they had to have a really long building.
Yeah.
So that they could work and twist that rope. To me, I can't imagine how they did it. And how heavy did it get?
And it's down in a hole too.
Yes.
We had our Campbell reunion there last year. And no signal at all, nothing. You couldn't get a thing, and you're only off the road. The main road's maybe 100 yards or so, but it was so deep, so down
So you
in
know the
slope.
place where it was,
Yep,
the rope factory.
just it's not there anymore. There's a church camp there. No.
Uh-huh. Is that where the Bible Club camp is?
Yep.
Yes.
How about
yes.
that? I send kids there every year.
The
Yeah.
bridge is still there.
About
It's
that.
closed on the Route 12 side.
Yes, yeah, we just walk across it.
Oh, that's a very nice little camp.
Yes,
down there.
very nice camp.
Yeah,
Well
nice
run.
for children.
Yep.
My Lincklaen connection came to the area in about 1848. And actually, Melissa and I talked years ago when I was first starting my search, and their name is Locke. And they actually supplied 4 brothers, one of them being my great-great-grandfather, to the Civil War. One was in the 157th New York, which was out of Cortland in Madison County. He made it through. He was wounded at Gettysburg, but made it through. He had another brother in the 114th, which is right out of Otselic in Norwich, maybe? He didn't make it through.
Yes.
And then the 2 other brothers were in 2 cavalry units. And they came from but none of them, I shouldn't say that. Several of the Locks are buried in the Rhode Island Cemetery. The young man that didn't make it through the war has a gravestone there that he shares with his sister, but I do not believe his body is there. But I had a hard time finding anybody that really put the flags out there in Rhode Island. So I kind of adopted that area, and I put a flag out there, and I left a message, and somebody's found the message. I told them where he was with the 114th. So now they're putting flags on his grave every year.
I'm
Yeah.
almost think South Otselic Legion puts them there.
You think so?
I don't know.
I spoke with them and they do not
They
do
don't?
that anymore,
Maybe
no.
some individual is.
Maybe, because it's somewhat taken care of. It's not great, but at least it's mowed, and
Yeah.
there's a pony that grazes in there in the summertime. I don't know if you think that.
I don't know when that,
It was grazing around the graves where I was interested.
I don't know when that started. The neighbors did have horses.
Well, apparently, it's a horse or a pony that is in there.
Yeah,
Grazes.
They're meadows.
But they mow it too.
well, the horses would,
When you mentioned the
I used
flags, I
to.
do remember talking to you after you mentioned the flags. And I called around to see who I think did it, but I couldn't find who does it.
Yeah.
You would have thought it would be
At one
outside.
time-
It's really not far from
I
South
think at one time DeRuyter did all of them,
So the Gregs came from Westerly.
but then I don't know whether they got low on money or people or what. I don't know, then they kind of backed off.
Well,
And
Tyler
then
used to do.
Wayne
Woodlawn,
asked if we
didn't he?
wanted to.
Yes.
We started it, so
Yes,
we
'cause
started
then
it back up.
Lucky
Got our flags from Truxton.
Historian and asked, would I like to do that? And I said, well, yes, we should be doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Melissa,
I think-
what kind of, oh, sorry. I was just gonna ask what kind of pictures you have to share.
We have pictures of the buildings that either are still there or once were there. I know there's a house, kind of, if you know where the one church is, in the, like, circle of Lincklaen, that little, it's on the main road. Kind of kitty corner, sort of, to it. I don't remember what house it used to be, but the owners have redone that house. I guess.
The one that sets in the
This
V.
one?
I think she's talking about the old store.
No, it's
There
the old,
used to be another
it used to
store
be the old
right on
mine.
the bottom of Randall Hill.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
It was a
by
grocery
Randall.
store. They rebuilt the
Yeah,
whole
right.
thing, and it was for sale, I don't know, still.
This one was
Drake's
the
ran it
John
for years.
and Rose
Yes,
Cross
But that
Murray
was a
house.
son of
But it has,
Burroughs.
We could pass these around
Ward
maybe, or,
Burroughs.
yeah.
Who ran that store for
seen this.
Was that before Drake's?
It was the
Yes,
post
before.
office and.
The Drake
There's a good
married
picture of
a
the post
Burroughs.
Oh,
That's how he,
yeah. Drake's lived in that house on the V. for a
yes,
while.
the giant-
they lived in the house
Yeah,
and did some
Oh,
work
this
on
is-
it while they lived there.
my
What's the
great,
fact-
great.
I'm thinking, well, I think it is.
That was a neat
What's
house.
that, a creamery?
Hall. I think Grandma always called
You
it
see all the
the
milk
Hall
cans?
house.
Yeah.
That might have been the creamery.
Because of course she was right across
Yeah.
from in that little house,
They had a wee fire there a few years back.
in the big house.
Yeah. So I went and rewired it and everything.
Do you have a map of Lincklaen? See, I think it's between Kyler and Cincinnatus, and I know it's in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. It's between Kyler and Pitcher,
Okay, Pitcher's in between Cincinnatus and
and then,
Kyler's there. Okay.
we border the Cortland line, the Madison County line,
And Chenango.
and.
We're
of course,
just
Chenango.
in
Yeah,
Chenango.
we're,
Madison County?
yes,
This way too.
right.
Yeah.
DeRuyter is Madison County.
Okay, and then you border what down, going towards Cincinnatus? Pitcher comes up that way. What do you border here? On the other side of Lincoln, you've got Madison County. I didn't know you bordered that.
Cortland County.
Cortland County's the other piece?
If you come from
The
DeRuyter, which
west
is
part,
Madison County,
west and south and something.
then you're gonna cross, Cortland County will be here, Chenango County here.
Yeah, we're right.
See, I'm looking at Kyler as a place, and I thought Kyler would be Madison County.
No.
No, it's
No.
Cortland County.
So it comes up beside
Yes.
Kyler.
Well, and the
They're
DeRuyter
all
Fair
right.
was always known as the Four County Fair,
Oh, yeah, it was.
because it, Madison, Chenango, Cortland, and Onondaga. It borders all the way. I know it gets confusing. When we were in the Chenango County parade one year, they didn't even know Lincklaen was in Chenango County. And I'm like, well, where have you people been all these years?
Yes.
What's the map?
We should have got the farthest traveled, but they didn't know where we came from.
So they learned something
So
that
Lincklaen
day.
is not Cortland County?
No, we're Shenango.
Shenango County. We're right on the tip.
Well, I always thought the Cincinnati's kids were from Lincklaen.
Some are from Lincklaen.
Well, see, that's why I was
Might
thinking
be,
it was
yes,
Cortland County.
yeah.
The
Because they
farther,
cross over.
yeah, they kind of
Yeah.
cross over, so some go to Cincinnatus, and
Mhm.
my kids have gone to DeRuyter.
That's the reason I thought it was Cortland County, because they were in Cincinnati school. A lot of friends I know over there.
The schools make it so confusing too, that doesn't help.
Does-
And then some of them go to Truxton
Yes.
In Lincklaen?
from DeRuyter. They're, actually,
Yeah,
they're from
some go to
Highland, they're
Fabius.
actually
They're
from
from
Highland. Some go to
Highland.
Fabius.
We don't have a
Some go to
Truxton school
Fabius
anymore.
though, if they're on
It's
the other
gone.
end of that road, even though they're Kyler,
Yeah.
they go to
Union
Fabius.
Union Valley, that's where some of them may end up going to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
We don't have a Truxton school anymore.
Union Valley.
Right,
both
yeah, I
both
know, I
counties.
was so sad to see that they closed that.
I think everybody was.
Cortland and Shenango.
Especially for the ones that live on, this side of Cortland or Truxton. Now they have to go clear to,
And Homer doesn't even want to go to Kyler, but they have to, they own it. But a lot of them do go to DeRuyter. But if you're in Homer, you are allowed to go to Kyler. Kyler is allowed to go to Homer or Madison County, either one.
see, that's the same with part of us in Lincklaen. Some go to DeRuyter, some go to Cincinnatus.
When you talk about Lincklaen Center and Lincklaen, where on the road from Union Valley up through is that?
What, Lincklaen Center?
Yeah, where's?
You're
Lincklaen
coming
Center?
from Union Valley into Lincklaen?
Yeah,
You remember where the pie store was?
right.
Turn right. And just follow right out around and you're in Lincklaen Center.
Oh,
About a
so
mile
it's
and a
out
half.
that.
And that's Lincklaen Center Road.
Yeah.
And that's where Burdick Settlement was.
Yeah.
Was Lincklaen Center.
And there's a cemetery up there,
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Burdick.
Yeah, if you follow right out around.
because that's
and
where
Head up the hill,
we had to go there.
Paradise Hill they call it. Cemetery's on the
With
left.
my grandmother.
But when Lincoln opened, when did the center come in? Did it come in when it opened?
Originally, Lincklaen Center was called Burdick Settlement.
Okay, now I'm totally confused.
Just because that's where Burdick family originally reside.
I drive all over the place.
And that's like Catlin
I didn't
Settlement
know
as
where it
well.
was though.
Right, the Catlin brothers settled there, so it became Catlin Settlement at first.
And on this map here, it says Lincklaen, but then it says Catlin Settlement right over it. And
Well,
maybe I tried-
they were designating the post office
Oh,
on
okay.
that map. Yeah.
Yeah, Lincklaen Post Office.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to pass around the pictures, but I'd be
Yeah,
interested in
yeah.
looking at some of them. I was going to bring a picture of
Or should we just pass around?
my grandmother's
pass
house,
around.
but I couldn't find it quickly. It's there, it's filed.
So what post office serves Lincklaen now then?
DeRuyter.
The writer?
Unless you live on the Cincinnatus or picture on it, then you're a picture.
Picture.
Yes.
Yeah, it's totally confusing because our fire department
It's
and
Kyler.
mail.
Our fire department's Kyler.
You get two zip codes in a tiny little town.
Yeah.
What was the hazardous waste site that's there on
Oh.
on that road?
That's on Union Valley Road.
Yeah, so it's Union Valley's fault.
No, it wasn't. It was the guys that originally started it were from
Dumping
Syracuse.
things.
So where
And GE and